goals as a teacher not only helps me stay focused on what I want to accomplish, manage my workflow, but it also really helps me feel like I'm making progress in my career. So it's definitely something I try to do each and every year. Hello, my name is Megan and welcome to New Year's content. I gotta be honest, this is what I live for. I love New Year's goals, any type of goals, but for me, I especially really love to set New Year's goals regarding my teaching and regarding my career. So I wanted to share some of the goals that I had last year to see how I did on them and also talk about the goals that I have for teaching in 2024. This is the first episode of Teacher Talks, which is something where I just want to sit down and kind of have a conversation about what it's like to be a teacher, especially an ESL teacher or a teacher living abroad. I have my coffee with me today because coffee is a necessity for the life that I'm about to live in 2023. So before I hop into my goals for the coming year, I want to look at some of the things that I had set as goals or intentions for 2023. I have my iPad here, so I'm gonna go through them. Let's take a sip first. Okay, let's dive in. I am a teacher at a university in southern China. So the type of content that might be in my classes might be different from yours. Especially the last year, my classes were very heavily business focused, not only English focused. So a lot of my goals are kind of connected to that. They're also connected to me trying to manage the amount of time I spent working on things to make sure I was spending my time efficiently. So I really only had 5 goals for 2023. The first goal I had might sound a little bit strange, but the goal was I wanted to use market leader textbooks. I already have a couple of videos on this channel about market leader. In my opinion, they're one of the best textbooks out there when it comes to teaching professional English, and I really wanted to use those textbooks because this year I started my PhD and I knew that I needed textbooks that I was already familiar with. Even if I didn't have lessons prepared already, I wanted a textbook that I knew I could count on that had a variety of content available to me. And I would say this is a goal that I accomplished because it was not easy to get those textbooks, to be honest. I had to do quite a bit of negotiating with my school to make sure that everything could happen so that I could use Market Leader. But I did use Market Leader textbooks all year last year. So that was a huge win for me because I knew that I didn't have to do a lot of my own creativity and my own planning. I knew the Market Leader textbooks had enough good content for me to make lessons out of. The second goal is a little bit related to that. I wanted to reuse and perfect some old lessons instead of creating lessons from scratch. I have been a teacher for over 10 years, and for the majority of that time, honestly, up until last year, I was creating new lessons every single semester. And that's just, it's just a lot of work. Another thing I wanted to do was have the chance to really go back and perfect lessons. It can be a little bit discouraging to always be making new content and new lessons and not ever have the chance to kind of go back and perfect them. So I really wanted to try to reuse old lessons, which I was definitely able to do. I wasn't able to do that for all of my classes or all of my weeks, but I definitely did a lot, and I really tried to go back to old lessons to try to remember what worked and perfect it for next time. Another thing was I really wanted to focus on deep business ideas. And like I said, this last year was very much a focus for my classes to be talking about advertising and how to manage a team and HR problems. So I didn't just want to teach my students English this year, I really wanted them to learn deep business techniques, which meant that I had to learn them myself, but I was just constantly looking for chances to implement them, and I definitely did that. We spent quite a lot of time talking about deep ideas. 2 more goals. This is number 4 and number 5. Number 4, I think I did okay on, but I could have done better, was I wanted to be conscious of the homework I was assigning. I have been guilty in the past of just assigning homework for the sake of homework, and also just assigning homework that sounded like a really good assignment but actually created a lot of work for myself. You can hear how loud it is in Shenzhen. It's constant. So I really wanted to be conscious of the homework assignments that I was giving to my students this semester, because I don't want them to work on busy work. If it's not going to help them and push them forward in their English or push them forward in their business knowledge, then I don't want them to waste their time doing it. And I especially didn't want to give myself extra work. So what that looked like was, instead of having each student create an advertisement for our advertising unit, I had groups of 2 or 3 or 4 students working together to create a poster advertisement. The students were still able to practice their advertising techniques and they were still able to practice their English, but I had fewer assignments to grade. When it came to giving grammar assignments, I used the ones in the textbook, so I didn't have to take home pieces of paper and grade them and hand them back. If it wasn't in the textbook, I tried to avoid using it as homework, and I think that worked out really well for me because the students were still able to practice, but I was saving myself some time. And the last thing that I put sounds so simple, but it has been on my list for far too many years. And that is keeping up with my attendance charts each week. I have a really great attendance tracking system. I'm very proud of it. I know it works well. Do I keep up with it every week? No. Why? I don't know. Because it would make my life so much easier if I did. And so actually it's number 5 on my list, but in my mind, it was one of the more important ones because it's just such a headache when you get to the end of the semester and your attendance sheets are a mess. So I was really, really strict with myself about making sure my attendance was sharp this year. And in the spring of 2023, I gotta say, it was a little bit shaky, but this semester, the fall of 2023, I kept up with it every single week. And wouldn't you know, at the very end of the semester, when I'm totaling up the grades, it was so easy. It was a breeze. Who would have thought? So definitely proud of myself for that one because it made my life so much easier. So those were my goals for 2023, and I am the kind of person that loves to set a billion goals and only do a quarter of them. So the fact that I can pretty much say I did all of these goals is pretty significant, which brings us to 2024. I have 7 that I want to talk about. The first one is working only contract hours. Let's just let that one sink in for a second, okay? Working only contract hours. I think this is going to be difficult, but I think I've been preparing for this for a little bit of time. And the reason I only want to work contract hours is because I just have so many other things happening in my life. I will be doing my 2nd year of my PhD and I don't have a lot of time. I want to be making content because I feel passionately about helping other people who are new to ESL or who have been doing it for a while and just want somebody else in their corner. So I have all of these things that I really want to do and I'm really passionate about. And the fact of the matter is there are only so many hours in a day. So I just want to work my contract hours. And besides, if I'm not getting paid for it, then there's no reason for me to work all of this extra time. The second thing I have written down is if it's not helping my students, I don't want to do it. So there are so many opportunities at my school to teach an extra class here, to join a competition. And I just want to say no to all of the extra things unless it's something that's going to help my students. So I want to be very mindful of what I agree to this year. This might be the biggest thing that I want to do this semester is I want to be more personal in my classes. The last few years have been quite unique here in China. Our version of COVID lasted for 3 full years. And during that time, my students were never allowed to leave campus. They weren't allowed to go out. They weren't allowed to travel. They weren't allowed to see their families. And so when I would come to class early and I would walk around and I would chat with the students, I felt like there wasn't anything to talk about because usual questions like, what did you do this weekend? Or did anything interesting happen this week? Just nothing interesting happened. The students didn't go anywhere. And so I think I got into a bad habit of just not really talking about anything besides, what's your homework like this week? Or are you really busy this week? So I really just want to get more personal with my students. I want to share a little bit more about myself when I chat with them. I want to just get more personal, be a little bit more open, find out a little bit more about their personalities and their interests and their hobbies and how they spend their weekends, and just talk a little bit more in class with them, create a closer connection with my students. And I think this might be my #1 goal. There are a couple other smaller ones. Like I want to focus a little bit more on practical speaking in class. Like I said, in the last few years I've been really focused on business courses, but now that I'm focusing on listening and speaking courses, I can be a little bit more relaxed. I don't have to teach things about SEO or advertising or HR management problems. I just get to talk about listening and speaking. At the end of each class, I want students to feel like they really learned something and they got to practice during their class time. Another thing I want to do is I want to discuss some unusual topics that might not be in the textbook. And the reason I say unusual is because these are topics that might not be talked about often in an ESL classroom, but I think they're important. So as last year I went deep into business, this year I want to go deep into some other topics. For example, if there is a topic about health, I would like to talk about physical health. If there is a topic about money, I want to talk about being financially savvy and budgeting. If there is a topic about friendships, I want to talk a little bit about personality styles or conflict management. Something that not only brings a little bit of fresh light into the class, but something that students could take from the class and use in their real world that's not exactly directly related to English. So that's something I want to do. And 2 more things is I want to continue keeping up with attendance because that made my life so much easier. And then finally, my last goal is I want to learn a little bit more about how to teach listening and listening techniques. Like I said, I haven't taught that in probably 3 or 4 years. So I know I can definitely improve when it comes to teaching about listening. So that's something that I really want to focus on. Now, you don't have to take these ideas. This is not that kind of video. Instead, I just wanted to sit down and kind of talk through some of the things that I was thinking about regarding the last year and some things that I was thinking about for the coming year. And I hope just hearing my ideas has sparked something that you could maybe do for your own class or for your own students or for your own lifestyle as a teacher, because I want these teacher talks to just be a chance to take a little bit of a break and think about the bigger picture things that are happening inside of our classroom. So often we can just get bogged down with how busy everything is and just surviving one week and finishing another lesson and finishing another lesson and dealing with this discipline problem. But I found last year that kind of having these overall ideas or overall goals helped me still feel satisfied and productive at the end of the week, because I knew at the end of the week, even if things got messy, even if I got behind, I knew I had kept up with my attendance and I knew that I was doing what I wanted to by teaching these students some deeper ideas about business. So I think this will really help me going into the 2024 school year. If you have any ideas for goals, leave them down below because I would love to be more inspired and get new ideas. And if you have any questions, you can also leave those down below as well. You can check out the website atlasteachingesl.com for tons of ideas and resources that you can use in your classroom. And you can come back here each week for new videos. Okay, that's all for today. I will see you next time. Bye.